In everyone's life, there comes a moment when they realize the influence of public opinion. However, most people never achieve freedom from the shackles of others' judgments, remaining prisoners of the desire for approval. From the first days of recognizing parental smiles and frowns, the need for constant approval, even from strangers, becomes defining. These individuals tend to measure their worth solely through the lens of others' opinions. The pursuit of social approval overshadows everything, generating an irrational fear of criticism, disapproval, and rejection. Instead of following their own path based on talents, strengths, and desires, they adapt to the expectations and wishes of others. Some even abandon their dreams, fearing condemnation from those around them. As Epicurus once noted, "I have never desired to please the crowd. For what I know they do not approve, and what they approve, I do not know." The first step towards forming a healthy attitude towards others' opinions can be analyzing those whose approval we so crave. Ask yourself, are these people worthy of our respect and admiration? Are they in a state of development or stagnation? Do they possess the courage, independence, and inquisitive mind necessary to seek truth and form their own opinions? Or are they cowardly conformists, mindlessly accepting and repeating everything they hear from the news, celebrities, social media, and politicians? If a person does not inspire admiration in us, should we attach importance to the impression our lifestyle makes on them? The answer to this question may be the key to breaking free from the shackles of others' opinions and gaining true freedom. Seneca once posed a rhetorical question that remains relevant today. Why do we seek approval from those whose opinions we ourselves do not value? Arthur Schopenhauer later echoed this thought, noting that over time, we come to realize the superficiality and limitations of most people's thinking, which makes their opinions essentially unimportant to us. Getting rid of the need for approval from an individual is an achievable task. However, when we find ourselves surrounded by a group or crowd, the desire for recognition can intensify, manifesting as social anxiety that hinders our self-realization. During public speaking, excitement and nervousness constrain us, preventing us from fully realizing our potential. At social events, we feel uncomfortable and shy, losing naturalness and spontaneity. The most dangerous consequence of social anxiety, caused by an excessive need for approval, is the suppression of conscience. Even when aware of the error of our actions or words, driven by fear of condemnation, we obediently follow the crowd, betraying our own convictions. To curb the agonizing feeling of social anxiety, the Stoic philosopher Epictetus called for deep reflection on the very nature of the crowd. He noted that a person suffering from this ailment simply does not realize the true essence and value of mass gatherings, applause, and praise in life. It is this ignorance that makes him tremble and pale before society. Often, people perceive the crowd as a monolithic entity, which inevitably generates fear. However, in reality, a crowd is just a collection of individuals united by a commonplace or feeling. Therefore, when surrounded by a large number of people, it is important to learn to see and perceive each person individually and not as a faceless mass. This approach will significantly reduce the anxious desire for universal approval. After all, if we are indifferent to the opinion of an individual we do not respect, we should treat the approval of a random gathering of people with the same equanimity. Their praise should not mean more to us than the opinion of a stranger. As the distinguished Roman philosopher and statesman Cicero once remarked, it is hard to imagine anything more illogical than believing that people we tend to underestimate individually suddenly gain significance when they gather together in a group. However, there are cases when the collective consists of individuals with outstanding intelligence and high moral qualities. But even in such circumstances, the opinion these people have of us remains beyond our control, and therefore should not become a source of anxiety. The only thing within our power is to adhere to the principles of honesty in our actions, and avoid actions that could cause contempt. After that, all that remains is to gratefully accept whatever opinion they form of us. Epictetus expressed this thought as follows: "No worthy person indulges in grief and complaints, sheds tears, pales with fear and trembles, or asks, 'How will he receive me? How will he react to my words?' A slave will act as he sees fit. Why should you care about other people's business? Overcoming the fear of judgment, ridicule, and rejection, along with diminishing our need for social approval, also plays a vital role in achieving a fulfilling life. It is necessary to learn to maintain composure and indifference when we are affected by the disdainful glances of those around us, whether in virtual spaces or in real life. Epictetus advised that when faced with contempt, one should first pause and allow oneself time to calm down before reacting, as impulsive actions often lead to negative consequences. If we take the time to collect our thoughts, we can choose the most appropriate response for the specific situation. Human freedom, according to Rollo May, lies in the unique ability to suspend the flow of stimuli and reactions, so that in this precious pause, we can consciously choose the response that best aligns with our values and beliefs. Epictetus, echoing this thought, emphasized that the source of offense is not the offender themselves, but our perception of their actions as offensive. Therefore, when faced with provocation, the primary task is not to succumb to fleeting impressions, but to gain time for reflection in order to maintain self-control. One of the most effective ways to neutralize insults and mockery is to practice listening like a stone. This method involves a complete lack of reaction to the words of the offender, just as a stone remains unmoved by any impact. By ignoring provocations, we continue to go about our business as if the offender does not exist. This reaction is disarming for two reasons. First, the goal of insults is often to provoke an emotional reaction, demonstrating the power of words over our psyche. By remaining unmoved, we deprive the offender of the satisfaction of their power ambitions, showing by our inaction that their provocations are powerless to affect us. Second, since our actions influence our thoughts and emotions, stone-like calmness on the outside contributes to the attainment of inner composure. Seneca noted that greatness of spirit is manifested in the ability to rise above insults, and contempt for revenge is shown by treating the opponent as unworthy of a response. Like a mighty beast that ignores the barking of small dogs, great people remain unmoved in the face of insults. Epictetus aptly captured the essence of indifference to insults, suggesting that we imagine trying to insult a stone. Like a stone, unmoved by verbal attacks, a person with inner resilience does not succumb to provocations. If an individual remains unmoved, insults lose their power, finding no resonance. Another effective method of combating contempt is the use of humor. A witty response can diffuse a tense situation, demonstrating a reluctance to stoop to the level of the offender and fuel their aggression. A well-aimed remark can even neutralize hostility and endear the opponent to oneself. Humor is evidence of strength of spirit. Since only self-confident people are able to perceive the attacks of detractors with irony, Seneca emphasized that some people react excessively to minor incidents, such as a push from a barber or a sullen look from a gatekeeper. However, such trifles should only evoke laughter. It is important to maintain peace of mind and watch with satisfaction as others lose their composure over trivialities. Diogenes, a prominent philosopher, masterfully wielded the art of humor, skillfully using it to diffuse tension in communication with unpleasant individuals. Once, when a bald man insulted him, Diogenes retorted with wit, "I will not answer you with an insult, but only congratulate your hair on a successful escape from such an evil head." In another episode, upon learning that his colleague philosopher was speaking unfavorably about him, Diogenes remarked, "There is nothing surprising in this, because he never mastered the art of speaking well." When a group of men showered him with abuse, Diogenes, without losing his composure, shouted back to them, "Come here, men!" When they approached, Diogenes dismissively waved them off, saying, "I called for men, not rabble." However, at times the most valuable humor is directed at ourselves. After all, there's often a grain of truth in insults. Instead of being offended by criticism that hits the mark, it is much wiser to admit that, like everyone else, each person has shortcomings, quirks, weaknesses, and blind spots that may well be the subject of humor. If a person stops taking themselves too seriously and develops a healthy sense of humility, they will be able to laugh along with those who make fun of them, thereby neutralizing their attempts to hurt them. The French philosopher Montaigne argued that a worthy goal is to be equally laughable and capable of laughing. Seneca also noted, "No one seems ridiculous if they can laugh at themselves." Ultimately, the most effective way to combat obsessive thoughts about others' opinions is to cultivate unwavering self-confidence. When a person is plagued by doubts and feelings of inadequacy, they involuntarily become dependent on the approval of others, constantly fearing their judgment. However, if you direct your efforts toward developing your intellect and physical strength, improving your moral qualities, achieving your goals, and creating a worthy life, then the opinions of others, whether positive or negative, will lose their significance. As Epictetus wisely observed, in striving for external praise, a person casts doubt on their own integrity. If they need a witness, let them become one themselves.